This is Numbers with Nicole. We're going to do a model now of finding an unknown side in a right triangle using sine, cosine, or tangent. And our unknown is going to be in the numerator. So our first step would be to draw and label a diagram. However, we already have one. Our next step would be to write our acronyms. So, CA, TOA. I know to do that because that's the type of problem we're doing. If I look at this triangle, I want to find a missing side. I know I can't use Pythagorean theorem because I need two sides to use Pythagorean theorem, and here we only know one side. So our third step would be to identify what information we have in this picture. So here's my reference angle. If I look across from it, which would be the opposite, and if I look next to it, this is the adjacent. Keep in mind that the hypotenuse can never be the adjacent or opposite side for the angles we are using here. So I have the O and the A. That means we're going to use our tangent ratio. So I'm going to write my equation. The tan or tangent of an angle, which is 63 degrees, equals the opposite side, which is x, over the adjacent side, which is 34. So notice what I'm looking for is in the numerator here. So I'm going to put my ratio over 1. That is my fourth step. And then I'm going to solve this. So again, I can think of this as a proportion, and I can cross multiply across that equal sign, or I can think of this in terms of opposite operations. The opposite of dividing by 34 would be multiplying 34 by 34. And whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So now I'm going to go to my calculator. 34 times the tangent. Again, make sure your calculator is in degree mode. That's the degree, the measure the angle is in. All right, and now we're going to write our answer to the nearest tenth. 66.7 is our opposite side here. All right, model number 2, we're going to use trigonometry to find the measure of a missing side, the length of a missing side. We're going to use sine, cosine, or tangent, but now our unknown is going to be in the denominator. So we have a diagram. It's already labeled. I'm going to write my ratios. So, CA, TOA, and now I'm going to look at my picture. So I have my reference angle. I see that the longest side, the hypotenuse, we have an x, so I'm going to circle that. And then next to that angle, which is not the hypotenuse, that is my adjacent side, so I'm going to circle that. So I have A and H, that is tangent. So I'm going to write my equation. Okay, I'm doing these steps here. So cosine of the angle equals the adjacent side, which is 6, over my hypotenuse, which is x. So now notice that my unknown, what I'm looking for, is in the denominator here. All right, so I can still cross multiply and solve. But when I do that, what is going to happen is every time I do that, the cosine of 28 is going to switch places with the x. So here I'm going to do the cross multiplying. Cos 28 equals 6. And then we would divide both sides by the cos of 28. And so that's what I'm left with. So notice the shortcut here. The shortcut is to just switch these two when you're looking for something in the denominator. So we're going to end up with 6 divided by the cosine of 28. And we're going to put that in our calculator. 6 divided by cosine 28. Enter, round to the nearest tenths. So x equals, or our hypotenuse would be 6.8. And notice that that dimension, that length, should be longer than 6. Since the hypotenuse is the longest side, our hypotenuse should be longer than 6.